This is the author speaking, and we're in chapter 12, and things are really starting to heat up. Maricia just got captured by the demon lord, and Joshua, Serenity, and Mr. Garrett are after him. Alright, here we go. Chapter 12. As soon as Joshua, Serenity, and Mr. Garrett exit and start running towards the dark forest, they get to the forest and stop suddenly as they're about to enter. Joshua and Serenity, be careful. They are expecting us to try to rescue her. So there are probably traps waiting for us along the way. It was the middle of the day, and it still looked like night in that place. It seemed like the whole place was constantly moving. Joshua could hear a lot of awful noises, like people screaming from unknown directions. You could even hear people crying all around. Joshua thought to himself, this could be the scariest nightmare. Joshua couldn't afford to be scared, so he had to be brave. Joshua and Serenity and Mr. Garrett were walking through the woods when they came upon a small pond. There was stones in the water leading across the pond. The pond water smelled like sewage. Serenity says, guys, this don't feel right. Joshua looks in the water, and he thought that he could see something in the water. Alright, Joshua and Serenity, we have to cross the pond to get to the Demon Lord's castle. Mr. Garrett and Joshua said, I think this is one of those times when I think I'm falling into a trap. Joshua pulls out his sword. Don't worry, I will go first. Joshua starts to step on the stones. Each one moves a little as he crosses the pond. Joshua gets to about the middle of the pond, and the area on the pond starts shaking. Joshua stabs his sword into the stone to get his footing, and blood starts coming from where he stabbed his sword. Joshua could start to see the mouth of a creature close around him. Joshua can hear Serenity yell at Joshua, get out of there, now! Joshua only thought about saving Aricia, and then his sword starts glowing. Then he jumps up quickly and cuts through the giant worm. Joshua says when he lands on the other side, well, that was gross. After that, the worm ran away, and Joshua was left on the other side. Hold on, Joshua, I'm coming, said Serenity. That's the good thing about having wings. I can fly. Mr. Garrett says, hey, what about me? Serenity says, oh, sorry, Mr. Garrett. I'd lift you, but you're too heavy. Joshua looks around and notices a long tree sticking straight up. Joshua slices down the tree with his sword and makes a bridge across the hole. Mr. Garrett says, thanks, boy. Joshua and Serenity watch Mr. Garrett cross the hole with the bridge Joshua made with the tree. Joshua could see a pale white look on Mr. Garrett's face as he went across. Joshua whispers to Serenity, hey, is Mr. Garrett afraid of heights? Yep, Serenity said. He's trying to conquer his fears so he can save Aricia. Josh said, okay, let's cheer him on, okay? Okay, Serenity said. You can do it, Mr. Garrett, Serenity said. Don't look down, Joshua said. Yeah, Serenity said, or you could fall. You balance and fall. Serenity does a little laugh. Serenity, I don't think that's funny. We are supposed to be encouraging him, Serenity. Mr. Garrett finally gets across. About the time the old man got across, he was a little shaky. You know, sometimes, Serenity, you can be so heartless. Mr. Garrett recovers quickly, crossing the tree bridge, and says, alright, let's continue. Joshua asked Mr. Garrett a question. Hey, Mr. Garrett, when will you know when it's time to sleep? We won't, Joshua. We just keep going until we get tired. We keep walking through the woods, hearing all kinds of weird noises. The sounds make a normal person run for their life. Serenity yells, "What was that?" She grabs Joshua's arm and continues walking. "Joshua, you will keep me safe, right?" "Of course, Serenity. I will keep everybody safe." "Thank you so much, Joshua," Serenity says. Mr. Garrett looks over at Serenity, hung on to Joshua, and rolls his eyes. Joshua and Serenity and Mr. Garrett could see something that looks like a person. When it turned and looked at Joshua and Serenity and Mr. Garrett, it cried out for help. It was a young woman, but she looked like a ghost. Joshua asked Mr. Garrett, "Is that a ghost?" "No, Joshua, that is not a ghost. Sometimes people try to travel to this world in their dream, but get stuck in the dark forest where most demons live. That's because the barrier I was telling you about a year ago, or 5 years for us, the same barrier that kept demons from running amok in Aristia's world is the same one that keeps people from your world to get here. Like you did, Joshua." "I don't understand. Why was I able to come in Aristia's world? I'm human." "Yes, Joshua, you have a very rare thing, a pure heart and a lion's heart. These two things make it possible. Joshua, you are not a threat to this world. You have no selfish desires. And excuse me, you can please help me. I'm lost. I'm so scared," the lady said. The young woman said, This dream feels so real. I don't know how I got here. Can you be my guide?" Joshua asked, "Ma'am, do you have a name?" "Yes, my name is Beth or Beth Ann." "Well, hello, Miss Beth. My name is Joshua, and I will help you find your way back home." "Joshua, you are a really nice boy, and thank you," said Beth. Joshua leans over to Mr. Garrett. "What can I do to help her?" "You need to get her out of this forest, and she will go back home." "All right, ma'am, are you ready to go home?" I don't mean to be rude. How are you, a little boy, going to get me out of here?" Joshua says to himself, "With my sword. It's my heart's desire to take you out of here and bring you back home." Joshua closes his eyes, and the sword in him starts to glow again. Joshua opens his eyes and scoops the lady and starts jumping from tree branch to tree branch until he's near the top. The lady asks, "Joshua, are you an angel?" "No," I said, "I'm just a guardian." When they get to where they could see the sunlight, he tosses the lady up as high as he could into the air. Then a gap opens up and sucks up the lady, like when he goes back home. Joshua was now sure she had went home, so he came back down to where Serenity and Mr. Garrett were. "Okay, Joshua, Serenity, we wasted some time. We need to make it up." Joshua and Serenity and Mr. Garrett start moving as fast pace now. The three were walking fast 1 minute and running the next. Joshua had one thing on his mind, and that was to getting Aristia. The group began to stop slowing down again and look over at Joshua and can tell that he was thinking about something. "Joshua, are you okay? You look like you're thinking about something hard," Serenity said. "Joshua, are you thinking about Aristia? It is okay if you are, because I am worried about her too. It's not just Aristia, it's my mom too. If I get myself dead, my mom and dad will never know what happened to me, just that I went to sleep and I never woke up again. And Aristia, what if I fail her? Then the whole world, not to mention my personal best friend, will be gone forever. I just know I have to get there before she makes herself disappear, because if she does that, then my heart will go with it. It feels like the weight of the world is on my shoulders." "Shut up, stupid boy. You are not alone. We are here, and we will face this together and win, because losing is not an option. Oh, and Joshua, I believe in you too, okay? And Aristia is sure lucky to have someone like you care about her so much. And one day, I want to meet someone like you. But until then, I am going to be one of the best friends I can be with both of you. Joshua, don't you dare give up. Serenity, I won't until I bring her back to the castle. Well said, my boy, said Mr. Garrett. Mr. Garrett begins to say, Joshua, the most important thing that will help you overcome obstacles is believing in yourself. Suddenly, Mr. Garrett tells everybody to freeze. Joshua and Serenity and Mr. Garrett start to see torches coming their direction. Okay, everybody, hide. We need to avoid a confrontation. It will just slow us down. Joshua and Serenity hide in some tall grass behind a bush and lay there quietly. Mr. Garrett hides behind a tree because there wasn't a whole lot of places he could hide. A group of lower demons, about 12 of them, were walking slowly through the woods. They were looking in all directions, which meant to Mr. Garrett he knew for sure they were looking for them. But those are nothing more than scouts. Serenity's wings start fluttering because she is nervous that they were getting close. Joshua looked over and saw this and put his right arm around her wings to hold them down and keep them from moving. When Joshua does that, Serenity looks at him and smiles. When the soldiers leave there, Mr. Garrett says, okay, everybody, let's continue moving forward. For a couple more hours, they walked. Then Mr. Garrett looks around and can tell Serenity and Joshua are tired. Mr. Garrett says, okay, let's stop here and rest for about 4 to 6 hours. Joshua said, won't they find us if we sleep here? Yes, Mr. Garrett said, that's why we're going to be sleeping in the top of the trees. That way no one could be able to find us. Serenity says, well, sleeping in a tree is something I do very well. Joshua says to himself, well, I never slept in a tree. Mr. Garrett, what if you roll off in your sleep? Well, Joshua, I guess you will wake up in heaven, or you could use this rope I brought with us. Mr. Garrett tossed Joshua and Serenity a rope to tie themselves off on the tree so they won't fall off. Serenity says to Joshua, follow me, I found the perfect sleeping spot. Joshua follows Serenity up the tree where she takes him to the top where there is 3 long and thick branches going across the tree. Joshua says to Serenity, wow, this is perfect spot. You can even see the night sky. Joshua lays down in the middle of the tree branches. Serenity says to Joshua, I will tie you off to the tree, okay? So just lay down. Serenity flies underneath him a couple of times, and then she says, okay, I'm done. Serenity then ties herself off on the big tree branches beside him. Well, good night, Joshua and Mr. Garrett. And Joshua says, good night, right back. They don't hear Mr. Garrett say anything until suddenly they hear a loud snore come from Mr. Garrett. Joshua says, well, I guess that's how he says good night. Joshua and Serenity both laugh. Then Joshua closes his eyes and goes to sleep. At the Demon Lord's castle, Arisia is fighting hard not to give in to getting possessed by the demon. Arisia's arms and legs were tied off on a wheel. It was very uncomfortable. Demon Lord asked her a lot of hurtful questions in an attempt to make her give up. The Demon Lord walks into the room where she is being held. My dear princess, or should I say queen now, since I killed your father after all. Arisia just hangs her head down. You know you can thank me for that promotion. Then the demon does a maniacal laugh. Arisia does a little laugh. Well, demon, you just wait. Joshua's gonna come and get me, and then you'll be sorry, you monster. Oh, you think that boy, who was barely able to defeat me the first time, Well, let me tell you a little secret. When I attacked the castle the first time, I was already weakened because I was not in the forest. But when that boy comes here, I will be twice as strong. And you see, I have the home field advantage, and I won't hesitate to kill him. You can believe in him all you want, all the way until he dies. Aricia starts crying. You see, that's the sound I like to hear. I will never stop believing in Joshua. His love is stronger than any amount of evil power you have, demon. Oh, I see you believe in love conquers all. Love is the strongest force on earth. That's a bunch of garbage. That boy you believe in is a boy after all, and they don't have a clue what love is, especially a boy from the other world. You're wrong, Aristia said. This boy is different from the rest. In fact, he was able to come here. That says it all. Aristia, you don't think I know about the amulet around his neck? Without that, he wouldn't even be here. And that's why you have not taken it off of him yet, because you're afraid he will disappear forever. Oh, that would break your heart, wouldn't it? No, you're wrong, demon. Leave me alone. I'm sorry. Is somebody upset? Don't worry, Aristia. I will give him a very slow, painful death, and you will get to watch all of it. Isn't that great? The demon does another evil laugh. Then Aristia yells out, Joshua! Then Joshua wakes up suddenly after picturing Aristia tied up and calling out to him. His heart was beating fast, and his sword was glowing. Serenity woke up from the light of Joshua and his sword. Joshua, is everything okay? A couple of tears come down. No, it's not okay. Aristia is in pain and I can feel it. We need to get there as soon as possible. Hold your horses, Joshua, Mr. Garrett said. We can't make a big scene. We will alert the enemy, and that would be bad. But Mr. Garrett, she needs me. Joshua, you need to be patient. Remember, love is patient, so your heart will guide you, not your emotions. We all want to save her, Joshua, not just you. Joshua, together we'll save her. That I promise you, said Mr. Garrett. Yes, Mr. Garrett, you're right. I was being selfish. I'm sorry. It's okay, my boy. Let's continue on. Mr. Garrett and Joshua and Serenity continued their quest to save Aristia. After 4 hours of walking, they came upon a thick bog. Mr. Garrett stops everybody. Now, Joshua and Serenity, there's something you need to know. I hoped it wasn't true, but this must be the bog of no direction. Now, Joshua and Serenity, you kids stay close to me. If you get lost, you will never make it out. It's going to be okay because I know how to walk through it. Now, everybody, close your eyes and walk in a straight direction through the bog. If you open your eyes, you will see things that will kill you. I will explain. If you are afraid of heights, you will fall to your death. And if you are afraid of fire, you will burst into flames. Mr. Garrett, I understand you're killed by your fears, but what if you're fearless? Well, Joshua, then I guess you have nothing to fear. Mr. Garrett, I do fear a lot of things. One of them's heights, and the other one's roaches. They are so scary. Mr. Garrett asked Serenity, are you ready? Yes, I'm ready. As long as Joshua holds my hand, I won't open my eyes. All right, then everybody, let's go. We wasted enough time. Serenity was trembling with fear. Joshua, I'm scared. I've never walked around with my eyes closed before. Serenity, you trust me, right? Yes, Joshua. Then Trust me to guide you through this bog." The three start walking through the bog. They've been walking for a couple minutes. Serenity asks the question, "Mr. Garrett, when do we know when to open our eyes if we can't see when we are out of the bog?" Mr. Garrett gasps, "I didn't think about that. I'm sorry." Joshua says, I think the only way to get out of this is to conquer our greatest fears." "Okay, everybody, hold hands." Joshua says, "Only one of us has to face their fears. Whoever can do it can lead the other people out. I guess since I'm the one that figured it out, I will be the one to face my fears." Serenity yells out to Joshua, "That's not fair. Don't sacrifice yourself for us. That's not fair." Joshua lets go of her hand and puts it on her cheek, and can feel that her face is wet with tears. "Serenity, it's fair to me to sacrifice my friend. It's not fair to me for me to sacrifice my friends when I know I have the best chance of doing this, you know." "Now, Serenity and Mr. Garrett, whatever you hear, do not open your eyes, no matter what, okay?" Mr. Garrett says, "All right, young man, I will trust you." Serenity says, "Joshua, you better make it. I need you here with us." Joshua says, "All right, here goes nothing." Joshua opens his eyes and realizes he's standing on the edge of a high cliff. You can barely see the bottom. Joshua suddenly feels something push him backwards off the cliff. Joshua immediately starts screaming bloody murder as he starts falling to his death. Joshua first tries to think about when he was floating with Aristia in the air at the ballroom. Then Joshua tries to think deeper. You are only falling when you fall, and it doesn't matter how high you are up, he says to himself. In the meantime, Serenity is crying, thinking Joshua is going to die, when she starts hearing him scream. Serenity cries out, "Please, please don't die." Mr. Garrett says to Serenity, Joshua can't hear you. All we can do is pray." Serenity grabs Mr. Garrett's hand really tightly. Joshua starts yelling, "I am not really falling because this is not real. I was standing on flat ground, so there is no way I can be falling." Joshua stops himself in midair and starts flying up until he sees the white bog. Then, when Joshua enters the bog, his eyes open, and he grabs both their hands and walks them out towards the other side. Serenity squeezes his hand. "Joshua, I'm so glad you are okay." "Come on, Serenity. I wasn't gone that long." "Oh, shut up, stupid boy. Always trying to be brave." "No, Serenity. I was only brave because I had nowhere to run, and I had no choice." That was the end of chapter 12. I hope you liked it, and more is to come. If you like it, please subscribe. Have a great day.